Head coach Darren DeVries and Indiana basketball continued to trend up for some of the biggest names in the class of 2026, and now we've got some visits scheduled.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, another week is getting started here at Locked On Hoosiers, and we appreciate you being with us. Busy show for you today. At the end of the show, we'll take a look at the Indiana football offensive line because Kurt Cignetti gave us some updates on a key piece from a year ago. Plus, you got a couple of transfers in there that I think are going to be fighting for starting jobs, and we'll talk about what that could look like for an offense that should be very good once again this year for Indiana football. Plus, we got two other names we need to talk about on the high school recruiting side who have put Indiana in their top list, top 7 for one, top 9 for the other. But we begin with news that broke and came out a few days ago, and we wanted to get it in here. Davion Adkins over the weekend sets his top 6, and he also sets all 6 official visits. Davion Adkins in the class of 2026, in case you have forgot, somebody that we have talked so much about on the show this year and over the last several months, really. We talked about that on our X page. Be sure you follow us at Locked On Hoosiers. He's the 3rd ranked center in high school basketball. Okay. He's in the class of 2026. He's at 6'9", 205 pounds, and looks every bit of it, man. His size, his speed, his agility is just really talented for Davion Adkins. Pretty much a 4-star across the board, no matter where you look. But a solid 4-star. Probably won't get that 5th star, but it doesn't really matter because he is uber talented. And again, the 3rd ranked center in the class of 2026. Could he get the 5th? Maybe, but regardless, he's just really good. Okay. Like I said, 6'9". He's got really good length. And the thing that stands out to me is when you watch him play, he just does it all right. He just continues to play the game the right way. Those who have had a chance to see him several times in person, they say the same thing. It's like, man, he's just always in the right spot. He always makes the right play, always makes the right decision, and you never really have to tell him what to do or where to be because he just gets it. And for a guy who, again, at his size, he's a center, man. He's going to be a center in D1. He's going to try and be a center in the NBA, I'm sure. He knows his position and he plays it very well, getting up and down the floor, rebounding the basketball, getting his teammates involved, getting involved with his teammates. I mean, he kind of does it all, but I really like Davion Adkins. But he does. He has his final 6. He's taking visits to all 6 of them, and the Indiana Hoosiers are on that list. Okay, here's what he's got going for his top 6. I'm going to read this in no particular order in terms of his favoritism, but I'll tell you what the list is in just a moment. UCLA, Auburn, Houston, Kansas, Rutgers, and Indiana. Let me say that again. His top 6 is UCLA, Auburn, Houston, Kansas, Rutgers, and Indiana. And so those are the 6 schools that he is taking official visits to. Now, I don't believe that he considered this technically a big top 6 graphic and things, but these are the 6 that he's taking official visits to. So you feel pretty good that these are the ones that it's down to. And I read them in that order because that's the reverse order he will be taking his official visits in. For those of you that have watched or listened to this show for quite some time, what do I talk about with official visits? When they have several visits lined up, when any kid has several visits lined up, where do I tell you that you want to be? You want to get the first visit or the last visit, right? That's what you want. You want the first visit or the last visit, because if it's the first visit, you get to make your initial pitch. You get to be the first one that sets the standard for everybody else. And then whether they do it consciously or subconsciously, that kid is going to be comparing every other school to the place he visited first. If you're the last school that they go to, then you get to have the final say. You get to kind of compare and figure, hey, what they say, how they do over at Tennessee or Duke or whatever. And then you get to make the final push in hopes that that's what they think about before they go into their final decision. Well, for the first time in a long time, Hoosier fans, Indiana gets the first visit. Indiana will get the first visit from Davion Adkins on September 13th in Bloomington. He'll then go to Rutgers on September 18th. He'll go to Kansas on September 26th, Houston on October 11th, Auburn on October 18th, and then UCLA on October 25th. And out of these teams, right, you feel like the Hoosiers can compete with all of these schools. I know that Rutgers just had 2 kids go top 5, but they were still under 500 as a program last year with those 2 kids on their team. Not really a selling point, if you ask me. Kansas, of course, great program, great team. Also, side note, I saw something that Bill Self was out of the hospital, so that's good news. Glad to hear that he's hopefully going to be okay and hopefully be on the sidelines for the Jayhawks this season. Houston and Calvin Sampson. What else can you say? They're national runner-ups again. They're just a really, really good team. Auburn, of course, coming off a Final Four as well with Bruce Pearl, the second one in their program history. And then UCLA. They're trying to figure it out with Mick Cronin out there. But Darren DeVries in Indiana, I feel like, have everything in front of them to make this possible, to make this happen. And you get the first official visit. Man, Indiana hasn't had this with a big high school recruit in a long, long time. And I'm so excited for this. I can't wait to see how this goes and hear how it goes and hopefully get a little bit of insight from Davion Adkins about his visit to IU. And my goodness, what an opportunity. Roll out everything you have. Throw everything at this kid and let him know that Indiana is where he needs to be. We'd love to get a center in the class of 2026. And the Hoosiers are absolutely going to get a center in the class of 2026 because we're after several of them, including guys like Arafan Diani and others. But, man, this would be a really good one. And I really do like Davion Adkins' game just from what he can do right now, plus the potential that he brings to the college game as well. I just love that you're in the top 6, you're getting an OV, and you're getting the first one. It's an opportunity for the Hoosiers to make an impression on Davion Adkins, the 3rd-ranked center in the class of 2026. I think he's somebody who is just, again, uberly skilled. He's a lefty, which is exciting. And I think someone who he can get a little beefier in college and really man up and really bully some folks when he gets to the next level. And I legitimately think IU could win this recruitment. I do. I think the Hoosiers are absolutely in it. I think you have every chance and every possibility to be the one who gets the verbal, gets the sign, gets the admission, right, of Davion Adkins. And no better way to start than getting him to visit you first on September 13th with the number 3 ranked center in the class of 2026 in Davion Adkins. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll continue talking some basketball recruiting because 2 other familiar names have cut their lists, and the Hoosiers are on there as well. We'll talk about that right after this here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also going to start building a little bit of wealth. And what I talk about all the time is the idea that it's all in one place. It's simple to use. And if you've got a significant other that you're trying to, make some make some financial decisions or track your spending or build some accounts, right? Build up a little bit of cash in there. Why not use Monarch Money? They specialize in helping out couples build your wealth. I do it and you can do it too, okay? Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers as we continue talking basketball recruiting. Reminder, we're going to talk some Indiana football O-line coming up in the third segment. Got some health updates from Kurt Signetti, and I've got some predictions for what I think could happen in terms of a starting five on the offensive line for Indiana football this year. But we continue talking about some high school recruiting, and somebody we talked about on Friday that I wanted to revisit for a moment, Anthony Thompson. Okay, the kid who is a consensus all around, no doubt about it, 5-star in the class of 2026. He's a top 10 player in the class. He's ranked somewhere second or third small forward, depending on where you look. But the dude can absolutely ball. We talked a lot about him on the show on Friday because he cuts his list right down to 7. Sorry, he is 7. Latrell Allmond is 9. We'll talk about Latrell Allmond in just a moment. But Anthony Thompson cuts down his list to 7. Again, he's 6'7", 185 pounds at the small forward position. And you're talking about some teams that have some big logos that are in on this kid alongside Indiana: Purdue, Ohio State, Texas, Michigan, Kentucky, North Carolina, and of course, your Indiana Hoosiers. Again, Indiana, Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Kentucky, and North Carolina. Those logos don't really get a whole lot bigger than that. But I think the Hoosiers are in this thing. It's an uphill battle. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you're talking about, again, Sean Miller down at Texas, right, who was recruiting Thompson when he was at Xavier. You've got Dusty May. We had this argument, or not this argument, this discussion on Friday. Dusty May at Michigan, who is coming off an Elite Eight appearance. You've got Matt Painter at Purdue, where it's like, man, are you going to win at any time? Like, win big at any time this year? Absolutely could be that year. You're talking about a coach of Hubert Davis, though, at North Carolina. They're already talking about it being on the hot seat. They're already going into this season, which we're less than 100 days away from, by the way. They're already talking about him having to win right now, or they're going to move on from him. And it's like, whew, man, that's harsh. They're in Chapel Hill. And then you got Mark Pope at Kentucky, who's doing really good things too. Ohio State's got to get back to relevancy. So you're in this thing for a top 10 player in Anthony Thompson. Love this kid. He's from Ohio. He's right there. He plays the Western Reserve, and he's played for Indiana Elite for a while. Somebody who I think is a difference maker in any class, any team that he becomes a part of. And that's what we talked about on Friday. It's like, man, the fact that you've already got him, or I guess he's already got you in his top 7, somebody who has already been on campus before. He made an unofficial visit a while back, and you're trying to get him on for an official visit. This is somebody you want. This is somebody that everybody wants to be a part of, and a staff that has been going after him for quite some time. Again, he's already been on campus one time for the unofficial. You'd love to get them on the official. I mean, the difference in what those two things are and what those mean and what you're able to do and what you're able to talk about, it's just night and day. That's why you hear Coach Jared DeVries all the time talk about, yeah, we're trying to get the official visit set up. We'd love to get this kid or that kid, right? The difference in an unofficial and an official is night and day. And so, again, just wanted to visit that one really quickly for Anthony Thompson. Some people have him outside the top 10, but he's not. I mean, he is a top 10 player in the class of 2026. And again, he's got Indiana in his top 7. But I wanted to talk about Latrell Allmond, someone who, my goodness, since we really ramped up our coverage of the 2026 class, we have talked about Latrell Allmond. He's a top 50 player no matter where you look. Some have him as high as 30-something, 20-something, 40-something. I mean, he's kind of all over the place in rankings, but he is a consensus top 50 player in this upcoming class. And he is a forward because at 6'8", 225, I mean, pick your position, bro. Pick a spot and play. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying he has the luxury, he has the ability. College coaches will have that at their disposal of, do we play you as a small center for a few minutes? Do we play you at your true position at a power forward? Do we dare play you as a big small forward? Like, what do we do? I don't know. You have that ability to do that with Latrell Allmond, who has put you in his top 9. Okay. Now, I don't think, and I think this is kind of what others are saying too. I don't believe that all of these schools are legitimate. Wow. Let me say that again. I don't think all 9 of these teams are legitimately, there it is, in this recruitment or will be in this recruitment when it's all said and done. But I do think Indiana is in the mix here. And I know I say that often, but we talk about kids that Indiana's a part of. I'm not going to talk about kids that Indiana doesn't have any shot with, right? Wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so I do believe that Indiana will be a part of the final recruitment of Latrell Allmond. Here's his top 9. This is from Joe Tipton the other day. This is a few days old, but this is what Latrell Allmond put as his top 9. Okay, get this pulled back up. It's refreshing on me just a second here. Tennessee, Maryland, Indiana, Virginia, Arizona, Kansas, Michigan State, Miami, and Oklahoma State. Again, I'll say those. Latrell Allmond from Richmond, Virginia. His top 9 is Tennessee, Maryland, Indiana, Virginia, Arizona, Kansas, Michigan State, Miami, and Oklahoma State. You would like to think that Indiana, Tennessee, Arizona, Kansas, Michigan State would be the ones that kind of separate themselves. I'm not talking anything bad about Maryland or Virginia or Miami or Oklahoma State, but somebody like Latrell Allmond can play just about anywhere in the country. And when you're getting serious offers from those big name programs, the big logos like an IU or the Tennessee T or the Kansas Jayhawk, right? Then you're doing something right. And I think Latrell Allmond is just one of the most pure overall skilled players in the class of 2026. And I really don't know why he's ranked in the 40s or 30s or wherever you want to look. I think he is top 20 talent in the class of 26. I really do. And the Hoosiers going to try and get him on an official visit. Love this kid. Somebody who we've talked so much about. And hey, look, he's got offers from like Georgetown and Louisville and other places like that too. So yeah, Indiana's making progress, man. And that's why I keep talking about all these kids. Look at who we've talked about today. Davion Adkins, Anthony Thompson, and Latrell Allmond. We've talked about some serious dudes today. We've talked about Davion Adkins, who's a top 30, 35 player. We've talked about Anthony Thompson, who's a top 10 player. And we talked about Latrell Allmond, who's a top 50 player no matter where you look. And Indiana is in on all of these kids. A visit set up for one. You've already had an unofficial. You're trying to get more from the other two. How could you not be happy with that? The fact that this is all starting to come together, and just be aware, here in the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a lot of this, because this is the time of the year where lists get cut down, visits get scheduled, and it becomes real, right? The boys become men in terms of recruiting, because you pretty much figure out, okay, we're in it for these 12 guys or these 8 guys or these 4 guys, whatever the case may be. And Indiana's got to make some hay. You got to have some success. And thankfully, you already have Prince Alexander Moody, who we're very excited about. But you got to get some more. And this is where you're going to find out, okay, we're going to trim this list of however many names, the 100 and something names that we have discussed on the show over the past several months. We're going to cut that massive list down to this. And it's like, all right, here we go, right? You know who you're in on, you know what you got to do, you know who you can take, you know how many you want to take, and then you pretty much just see where the chips fall, right? So very excited for all 3 of these kids. Again, Davion Adkins has set his official visit. Indiana trying to get Anthony Thompson and Latrell Allmond on an official visit. We're trying to get Thompson right now for sure. Trying to get Thompson here for the official visit. Remember, Latrell Allmond actually already took his official visit to Indiana. So you're already good there. You've already kind of made your pitch for Latrell Allmond. Trying to get Anthony Thompson on a visit to IU. And I think you're in a good spot with all of these kids, and their commitments are going to start coming up throughout the fall as we get closer to signing day on the basketball side of things. All right, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we're talking a little offensive line for Indiana football. We got some health updates from Curt Cignetti last week at Big Ten Media Days, and I have some predictions on what I think could happen with the offensive line. We'll talk about that in our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. And look, if you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal, trying to price match and compare and bounce around all the different websites, Game Time has their zone deals, and it picks the best seats for you in the section that you want to be in. That way you don't have to worry about it. And they're all in pricing and their panoramic seat views. Game Time is the only place that you need for sports, music, comedy, theater, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKED. ONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. And however you support this show, as we are, my goodness, almost through the month of July. Friday is August 1, ladies and gentlemen. Fall camps start, fall practice starts. NFL has reported high school football is right around the corner, man. I cannot wait for all of that to get started. And we're going to have so much for you here on Locked On Hoosiers as we're about to flip the month into August. So make sure that you are following us on your audio platforms. You have those notifications turned on, okay? I don't want you to miss any new episodes as we're really going to ramp up our coverage here soon. And then if you are watching on YouTube, you know the drill, right? You know the steps to help us out. Like the video, leave your thoughts down in the YouTube comments on all the kids we've talked about today, plus your predictions for the Indiana offensive line. Who do you think is the starting five? And then make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We've been making a push, okay? We've been making a push for 6K. We're at 5,954. Would love to get there by the end of the month. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a little effort there, but I think we can still do it. Let's try to get to 6K before the end of the month. And however you support, again, really, really do appreciate it. All right, final segment here. Talking offensive line. I got my predictions over here. I got them written down on this fancy piece of paper that I found. And the reason we're talking offensive line is because we got an update from Curt Cignetti last week at Big Ten Media Days, where he said that Drew Evans, who was one of the most highly ranked and productive offensive linemen in the Big Ten last year, remember, he got injured down the stretch in November. And we were like, man, that really sucks. But you got to move forward. You got to move on. You got to see what can happen. And I think you missed him. I think you missed him on that offensive line, especially when it came to the Notre Dame game. And so Curt Cignetti says that he's back. He's healthy. He should be ready to go, and that he is going to be out there for the fall, but they are going to kind of limit him and get him working back into true form. He didn't practice in the spring, hasn't done a whole lot this summer, but Drew Evans is supposed to be out there for the fall. That also goes along for Khalil Benson too, who's the Colorado transfer, who was working through some injury things. And so again, transferring back from Colorado. And so in terms of the health on the offensive line, as far as I know, other than Drew Evans, in terms of guys that are going to compete for starting jobs, I think the health for now is good to go. They haven't been practicing, so you would hope that that's the case. But now you hope that they can stay healthy, because I do think there is some depth on that offensive line. I think you've got some freshmen that are going to make some noise. You've got a ton of freaking experience on this team. I mean, guys who we're about to talk about in a second, they're all juniors, seniors, redshirt seniors. I mean, graduate seniors. I mean, these guys have played college football for quite some time. And so I think there should be a whole lot of confidence in what Indiana has on the offensive line. And so guys that I think you need to know, we talked about Khalil Benson, again, the Colorado transfer, Drew Evans, who's coming off of an injury. Bray Lynch is somebody who I think is going to be fighting for a guard spot from a year ago. I love Zen Mikulski. He's rated as one of the best offensive linemen out of the transfer portal. You pick him up from Ohio State. I fully expect him to honestly not just compete, but start for a starting job. And we'll talk about that in a second. You have Carter Smith, who's your projected starter from last year at left tackle. And then Pat Coogan, your transfer offensive lineman from Notre Dame. He is expected to be your starting center. And so I know that there will be some who say, because I'm going to tell you in just a moment, that it's not great to have 3 transfer offensive linemen who could be starting for you. But I think with Indiana's system and the way that they run the offense, I think it's okay. I think it will be okay. There absolutely could be hiccups. There's no doubt about it. But you're at least talking about guys who have played legitimate snaps. These aren't sophomores that didn't play last year at their previous school and left because of it. These are dudes who have played real snaps in big boy games, and they're stepping in for 1 year to try and make a difference. And so here's kind of my early projections on what the offensive line could look like for Indiana, okay? I've got Carter Smith at left tackle. I think that just makes the most sense. I have Zen Mikulski at right tackle. I do. I think you don't go get somebody like him, okay? His size, just to give you an outlook on him, he's 6'6", 320. All right? That's what Zen Mikulski is. I just think you don't go get somebody like him from Ohio State if you don't expect him to start. And so I have, again, Carter Smith at left tackle. I have Zen Mikulski at right tackle. Pat Coogan is going to be in the middle at the center spot. I think those 3 are locked down. I think that's where you are. I think that's makes the most sense. It's the guard spots, left and right guard, that are going to be really fascinating, because you're talking Drew Evans, Khalil Benson, Bray Lynch, but playing both sides. You have, I think, those 3 players for the 2 spots, left and right guard, which is a good thing overall. The fact that, as far as I know and as far as I've seen, all those guys can play either side. They can play left or right guard, which you would at this point expect them to be able to do in their careers, but you have that luxury. And so I'm good with Smith at left tackle, Coogan at center, and Mikulski at right tackle. I'm not ready to go out and predict who's going to be your starting guards yet. I believe that Khalil Benson at 6'6", 305. I think the Colorado transfer has a really good shot. Drew Evans, if he can get back healthy and get back into full form, then yeah, you would fully expect him to be on that offensive line. But don't overlook Bray Lynch either. I think he's somebody who's uber talented as well. And so can't wait to see what Cignetti says this week with fall camp starting, and what we get to see, and hopefully what the production looks like on that offensive line. But it's got to be better, and I think it will be upcoming this year for Indiana football. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here, supporting the show any way that you do. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're making a push for 6K. Would love to get there before August gets here on Friday. Okay, we are back tomorrow with more episodes, more stuff to talk about. Okay, we're here all week for you, Monday through Friday with Locked On Hoosiers. All right, we're back tomorrow. So until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.